Dan Brown's The Da Vinci Code is not just a novel, but a cultural phenomenon that masterfully weaves together an intense thriller, an intellectual mystery, art history, and revisionist theology. The book challenges the fundamental tenets of Christianity, inviting the reader into a whirlwind of breathtaking events unfolding against the backdrop of historical landmarks in Paris, London, and Scotland. Part 1, a bloody prelude in the sanctuary of art. It all begins on a cold Parisian night within the walls of the world's most famous museum, the Louvre. Jacques Saunière, a respected 76-year-old curator and the secret Grand Master of the Priory of Sion, is fleeing his pursuer, a colossal albino monk. Cornered in the Grand Gallery, he is shot in the stomach. Realizing he has only minutes to live, Saunière uses his last moments not to save himself, but to create a brilliant, gruesome message. He removes his clothes, lies down on the parquet floor, mimicking the pose of Leonardo da Vinci's famous drawing, Vitruvian Man, and with his own body points to his most famous work. Using a pen with ultraviolet ink, he draws a pentacle on his body and leaves several cryptic lines on the floor. 13322111185, the Fibonacci sequence. Oh, draconian devil. Oh, lame saint. And finally, a postscript that will prove fatal for another person. P.S. Find Robert Langdon. Meanwhile, in his hotel room, Robert Langdon, a Harvard professor of religious symbology, is asleep. His visit to Paris is for a lecture on hidden symbols in architecture. A sudden late-night call from an agent of the Central Directorate of the Judicial Police awakens him. He is summoned to the crime scene by Captain Bézu Fachet himself, a stern and commanding man nicknamed the Bull. Fachet, a secret member of the conservative Catholic organization Opus Dei, is convinced that Langdon, known for his liberal views on religion, is the murderer. The note with the professor's name is, for him, direct proof. Langdon, unaware of the trap, arrives at the Louvre and begins to analyze the strange scene. He explains to Fachet that the pentacle is an ancient pagan symbol of the sacred feminine, not Satanism. But his reflections are interrupted by the arrival of Sophie Neveu, a young and talented cryptographer from the police. She introduces herself as the agent who brought the deciphered numerical code. In reality, Sophie is the granddaughter of the murdered Saunière. She secretly passes a message to Langdon through his own phone, warning him that he is the prime suspect and that Fachet has placed a GPS tracker on his code. Sophie understands the true meaning of the PS. It's not postscriptum, but Princess Sophie, a childhood nickname her grandfather gave her. The message was intended for her. Together they decipher the anagrams. Oh, draconian devil becomes Leonardo da Vinci, and Oh, lame saint becomes the Mona Lisa. This leads them to the most famous painting in the world. Behind the canvas, they find a new key left by Saunière, a key to a Swiss bank deposit box engraved with an address, and the fleur-de-lis emblem, the symbol of the Priory of Sion. To buy time, Langdon throws the GPS tracker out the window onto the roof of a passing truck, and he and Sophie make a daring escape from the police-surrounded Louvre in her tiny smart car. Part 2, the hunt for the cryptex and the shadow of Opus Dei. In parallel, the story of the antagonists unfolds. Silas, a devout albino monk from Opus Dei, carries out the will of the mysterious teacher. His past is tragic. As a child, he killed his abusive father, was imprisoned, and after escaping, was on the verge of death, until he was saved by Bishop Manuel Aringarosa, the head of Opus Dei. For Silas, the bishop became a father figure, and the organization became his life's purpose. He wears a cilice, a spiked belt, on his thigh, and practices self-flagellation, believing it strengthens his spirit. The teacher has promised Aringarosa that he will help obtain the Holy Grail, a relic that will give Opus Dei incredible power over the Vatican, which the bishop believes is planning to sever ties with them. It was the teacher who gave Silas the names of the 4 guardians of the secret, and Saunière was the last of them. Langdon and Sophie arrive at the Depository Bank of Zurich. Using the Fibonacci sequence as the account number and the key for access, they retrieve a rosewood box. Inside is a cryptex, an ingenious device reputedly invented by Leonardo himself. It is a marble cylinder with 5 rotating dials inscribed with letters. Only by setting the correct 5-letter password can one access the papyrus scroll inside. If force is used, a vial of vinegar will break and dissolve the papyrus. A riddle on the box itself leads them to the next step. Unable to solve the password, Langdon decides to turn to the one person who knows more about the Holy Grail than anyone, his friend, Sir Lee Teabing. Part 3. A heretical revelation at Chateau Villette. Sir Lee Teabing is an eccentric, wealthy British historian who uses crutches due to polio. His luxurious estate, Chateau Villette outside Paris, is a veritable private museum dedicated to the Grail legend. Teabing gladly welcomes the fugitives. It is in his living room that the novel's key scene takes place. Teabing delivers a full-blown revelatory lecture to Sophie, who had until now believed the Grail to be a mythical cup. He asserts that the Holy Grail is not an object but a secret that the Church has hidden for 2,000 years. Using reproductions of Leonardo da Vinci's The Last Supper, he points out shocking details. The absence of a cup. There are only individual glasses on the table but no central chalice, the Grail. The figure of John, the apostle to Jesus' right, has overly feminine features, long red hair and delicate hands. Teabing claims this is not John, but Mary Magdalene herself. The symbols M and V. The figures of Jesus and Mary Magdalene form the letter M, which could symbolize Magdalene or matrimonio, marriage. The space between them forms the symbol V, the chalice, an ancient symbol of the female womb. According to Teabing's theory, Mary Magdalene was the wife of Jesus, a descendant of the tribe of Benjamin, and carried his child. After the crucifixion, she fled to Gaul, France, where she gave birth to a daughter, Sarah. Her descendants, the Merovingian dynasty, are the direct bloodline of Christ. The Priory of Sion was created to guard this secret and protect Christ's descendants. This truth, Teabing argues, demolishes the Church's central dogma of Christ's divinity, presenting him as a mortal man, a prophet, a husband, and a father. Their discussion is interrupted by an attack from Silas, who has tracked them down. However, thanks to Teabing's cunning, the monk is subdued and tied up. At that moment, the police arrive at the estate. Teabing, his butler Remy, and the two fugitives, along with the captured Silas, escape on Teabing's private jet to England. Part 4. The London Labyrinth, Betrayal and the Truth. During the flight, the team solves the password to the first cryptex. The riddle on the box leads them to believe the password is Sophie's name. The password Sophia, the Greek word for wisdom, opens the device. Inside is a new, smaller cryptex and a new riddle pointing to London. In London lies a knight, a pope interred. Langdon initially misinterprets this, thinking it refers to the tomb of a Knight Templar. But then he understands the play on words. A pope is not the pontiff, but a man named Pope. The knight is Sir Isaac Newton, whose funeral was officiated by the poet Alexander Pope. This leads them to Westminster Abbey, to Newton's tomb. Here, the plot takes a dramatic turn. Teabing's butler Remy, following the teacher's instructions, frees Silas and, to everyone's surprise, takes Teabing himself hostage. He leaves Langdon and Sophie to be caught by the police. However, it soon becomes clear that this was an elaborate game. The teacher kills Remy by poisoning him. He then anonymously informs the police of Silas's whereabouts, setting him up. In desperation, Silas accidentally shoots Bishop Aringarosa, who had arrived to help him, and, realizing he has been used, dies from his wounds. Langdon and Sophie, having solved the riddle at Newton's tomb, realize that the final password to the cryptex is related to the apple that fell on the scientist's head. Langdon guesses the password, apple. But at that moment, the teacher appears, threatening them with a gun. And here, the main mystery is revealed. The teacher is Sir Lee Teabing. He faked his own kidnapping. His true goal was not just to find the Grail, but to expose its secret to the world. He believed that the Priory of Sion, under Saunier's leadership, had betrayed its mission by refusing to publish the documents. He manipulated everyone. Opus Dei was his blind instrument, and Langdon and Sophie were his intellectual key. Teabing demands the cryptex, but Langdon, in a last-minute move, pretends to comply and throws the device into the air. Teabing lunges for it, but the cryptex falls and shatters. The enraged historian is arrested by the police, led by Captain Fachet, who has finally understood who the real criminal is. Langdon, however, had managed to memorize the contents of the scroll before destroying the cryptex. Part 5. Rosslyn and the Reunion of the Bloodline. The final riddle leads Langdon and Sophie to Scotland, to the famous Rosslyn Chapel, long associated with the Knights Templar and Freemasonry. The chapel is adorned with unique carvings that blend Christian and pagan motifs. There, the final revelation awaits them. They meet the chapel's curator, who turns out to be Sophie's grandmother. It is revealed that Jacques Saunier was not her biological grandfather, but the Grand Master of the Priory and her guardian. Sophie's entire family, her parents, her grandmother, and even a younger brother she never knew existed, are direct descendants of Jesus Christ and Mary Magdalene. Many years ago, their deaths were faked to protect the children from enemies hunting the bloodline. Sophie is finally reunited with her true family. They explain that the Grail is not just documents, but the story of their lineage and, symbolically, Sophie herself. However, the location of Mary Magdalene's sarcophagus had been lost. Epilogue: The Secret Beneath the Pyramid. Back in Paris, Langdon cannot rest. In his room at the Ritz Hotel, he cuts himself while shaving. A drop of blood trickling down the sink creates a rose line, and an epiphany strikes him. He realizes that all the riddles pointed to Paris, to the original prime meridian that ran through the city and was called the Rose Line. He rushes out into the street and follows the bronze medallions marked Arago, which denote the old meridian line. This path leads him back to the Louvre. He looks at the large glass pyramid designed by I.M.Pei. It is the blade, hollow up pointing triangle, the ancient symbol of the masculine. Then his gaze falls downward, to the underground lobby where the inverted glass pyramid, La Pyramide inversée, is located. This is the chalice, hollow down pointing triangle, the symbol of the feminine. Langdon understands the final truth, hidden in plain sight. The sarcophagus of Mary Magdalene, the Holy Grail, rests in a secret chamber directly beneath the point where the blade and the chalice meet. The sacred feminine is buried beneath the ultimate symbol of femininity, in the heart of the world's treasury of art. The novel ends with Robert Langdon, awestruck by the majesty of this millennial secret, kneeling before this unseen altar, paying homage to the queen resting 'neath the starry skies.